You saw the title, you absolute freak, and you decided to click on it and watch this video. And guess what? I'm there with you because there's a reason I've watched these films that you probably haven't heard of. It's because I love disturbing cinema, and I promise this list is full of some up stuff. And it's both good and bad, so get ready to hear me rant and rave about several films you may have heard of, but you probably haven't seen just yet. These are all films I saw at Fantastic Fest in Austin. I'm gonna let you know everything you should know about these films before diving in, completely spoiler free, so you know what you're getting yourself into. And I will be ranting in this video. There's one film that caused so many walkouts, so much anger during the festival, and I just need to discuss it. But we're gonna start with one of my favorites, which is Find Your Friends. This is written and directed by Isabel Paxad, and it stars Helena Howard, Bella Thorne, and Chloe Cherry, amongst some other brilliant women, but unfortunately there is no trailer as of right now. I really enjoyed this film. It got me from the go. It starts with a hypnotic party scene on a boat where we get to experience the chemistry between this group of friends. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to see this because I love Bella Thorne. I know I just have a thing for Bella Thorne, and this is my favorite Bella Thorne film thus far, so that is high praise from me. The film is about a group of girls who are on this kind of partying weekend away. It's based around Joshua Tree, but they go to several different parties, but they are isolated. That's a big part of this film. But the other big part of this film is it starts with one of the girls getting herself in a really dangerous situation with a guy on the boat. That is just the start of the film. And from there, the film kind of spirals into, I wouldn't say paranoia, but a trip where you're seeing everyone's different perspectives at the same time and the conflicts within this group through some of their behavior and the dangerous situations they're putting themselves in. The thing that sells this movie is the chemistry between the main group. It's so realistic, all of the petty arguments, all of the important arguments, and all of the sweeping under the rug that is happening. A lot of it seems very improvised, but it also has a really interesting flow to it where you're just kind of following them through this weekend and you just keep seeing all of the red flags. This film is on the list because it does start with a very intense scene. I recommend looking up any content warnings if you need to do so because it is a lot to start with, but from there, it honestly gets worse, but not in the same way. I could never have predicted what would happen in this film, and it's so brutal, quite graphic, but what I respect is it goes all the way there. It takes this group of girls, puts them in the most horrendous situation, but really it does not pump the brakes at all. They see the barrier, the line that you're not meant to cross, and then they just plow through it. And I found it very exhilarating, thrilling, and terrifying. The vibe is kind of like Spring Breakers, but very much focused on these women's perspective and the friendship between them. Highly recommend checking that one out when you can watch it. I actually saw it twice at the festival because I saw it at an early screening, and then I made the friends I was staying with watch it with me again, and they all liked it. The people in the row behind us, not so much. I think it was too much for them. I don't really think the film overall is that disturbing, but it has some really fucked up, memorable scenes. Next, we have My Son. F My Son is the title of this film. This was a very interesting situation because this film is based on a comic book, and the introduction that I saw was with the director themselves, who wheeled out, how do I say this online? They wheeled out this outhouse, let's say, you know, this little tiny room, this facility. And they said, anyone during the film, if you want to get in that room and spend some time alone watching the depravity, you're more than welcome to.
Should you feel the urge to during this movie, you can go in. Would you mind just stepping up here and showing us how this might work? Let's just say you're watching the movie, or any movie. It's enough to accommodate a wide screen, so you can use, yeah, you can see the whole screen through here. Do you feel pretty safe and protected? Is a safe space for you in there? Yeah. Great. And then so you can as much time as you need in there, and then so we'll rotate it back to its position where you'll just let me know if you can see the screen from there and make sure you guys can still see.
It was obviously a joke, but it really was the introduction you needed for this movie. So F My Son is a film that the title says it all. Basically, we follow, and this is a very messed up part, we follow a younger girl and her mother that are at a store, and then they see someone who needs help, this older lady who has fallen over. But upon attempting to help this lady, she takes them and lures them back to her house, where she asks the mother to, the title. It is the most over-the-top, silly, intentionally slapstick, gory, disgusting film. It is doing everything within its power to be politically incorrect. I wouldn't even say politically, like humanly incorrect. Everything about it is gross, and it really goes for it. But what I enjoyed about this film was the lead, Tipper Newton, who has been an actress in many things. Southbound, ABCs of Death, and a bunch of cameos in How I Met Your Mother, The Mindy Project, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Honestly, the list goes on and on. She really sold the story. I don't know how, but it was all in jest and fun. And it was obviously leaning into the stupidity and the over-the-top antics. It is so disgusting. I'm not even doing it justice, because when the sun is revealed, everything just gets so much worse. And it is a visceral, fluid-filled adventure. Only for the sickest people on earth, honestly. I would not recommend this to anyone. But in an audience full of people, it worked in a really disgusting way. This was kind of my dream, to see a film this filthy and gross among a crowd who had never seen it before. So quite interesting in that regard. At home, I don't think it would work just as well. I also want to say there was a lot of AI used throughout this film. There was questions to the director after the film about that, and they talked about the concept of creating some of the characters that happen kind of in people's heads and how they transformed them into moving parts of AI. But it wasn't just that. The intro to the film, I don't know if it's going to be shown in the at-home release, because the intro to the film, which is how to watch this film, has a lot of AI clips in there that are the over-the-top, really stylized AI, trying to be creepy on purpose and really leaning into the absurdity of AI. I'm not saying it's right. I just want to let you guys know what to be prepared for, but it definitely leans into the stylization of the rest of the film, which is kind of sad, because a lot of the film, especially the sun, is quite practical. There's lots of practical elements in this film. It's very gory, it's very violent, and it shows everything. It crosses every boundary. I know I said Find Your Friends crosses boundaries, but this is literally an X-rated boundary, and they go so far without any AI being used, so it doesn't really feel like it assists the core. Not me insisting that this has core values, but it didn't work towards the core elements of the story. And although it's kind of scary and creepy at the start with some of the AI smiling, I just don't think it really added anything to the story, especially with the climax, because the climax just speaks for itself. There were walkouts during this film, which I expected. It is disgusting. It is brutal. It is everything that Human Centipede couldn't do. If that sells anyone or stops you, but I had to talk about this creepy little film that is definitely for perverts and freaks. And just the conviction of the director and the actress who was there as well, to be able to talk about this film in such an open way with knowing exactly what it is. I absolutely adore that. I know it's gross and disgusting, but there is something about this unique perspective that keeps cinema open to everybody. As long as no one gets hurt, I am all for that. I wasn't lying, guys. The title is not a lie. Okay, the next one is a little bit harder to speak about in open terms, but this is Strawberry Shortcake, and this is actually a short film, but definitely worth mentioning. The film is from Taiwan, and it's a very fascinating take on the Freudian complex. I am not an expert on this, but I know that there are two different Freudian complexes, and one is the relationship with a son and mother, and the other one being the relationship with a daughter and father. So what is interesting about this film is it explores a very taboo relationship through this that hasn't really got a terminology or a name, or hasn't really been talked about at all, and that's the mother and daughter relationship. And more so about a single mother who is playing dual roles as the parental figure. So I think that's really interesting as a concept alone, and it's a very dreamy type movie, short film that really stumbles into the scenery around the house and then goes straight for it, based around a birthday and the relationship between the daughter and the mother. And yes, it is horrific. It was very startling. It played before another feature film, and I don't think anyone really wanted to dissect it in the moment, but I did read afterwards that the director, creator, it came to her in a dream, which is saying a lot for itself, but also is why the film has a very dreamlike quality. The imagery is just meant to show this kind of Freudian loop that is centered around this daughter and mother and this moment they have together. Messed up stuff. Beautifully shot. That's what I'll say about that one. Okay, a fun one. Finally, I'm gonna let you guys off the hook for 1 second. Dolly. I saw Dolly, which is a really fun forest creepy entity chasing you type film. There is not much substance to this movie at all, but the gore and the creepy elements do pass my tick of approval for disturbing themes. Dolly follows Macy, a girl who is abducted by a mysterious doll-like figure who has plans on raising her as her own. I wouldn't say there is anything under the surface level of this movie. It's just a creepy, as my friend Eric says, nasty little film. Eric Orange. Nasty little film that really completes the arc of a overbearing creature that everyone is scared of, a doll kind of chasing someone. But what I did like about it is there is another storyline going on in the background about the main girl and the person she's with. I don't want to spoil that too much, but it is super brutal, violent, and gory. And the gore for this film is what sold it for me. They have Sean William Scott playing another character who has the best, I don't want to say arc, I'm going to say it, the best arc in this film, and is well worth watching for that alone, because the violence, the gore, it's just... It was beautiful to see on the big screen. If you want to see a scream queen in the making, definitely check out Dolly. I'm interested to learn more behind the scenes about what this character actually is and what is happening here. And there is a lot of conversation about Dolly and what Dolly represents and whether that is controversial in itself. But they did talk about having a sequel to this movie, and hopefully once we have more answers, the conversation will grow and we'll be able to have a solid conversation about it. I feel like too many questions and too many things are being thrown out with a very simple storyline. But Dolly is one to watch out for sure. If you like screaming in the forest and bloody stuff. My gore hounds, listen up. I have 3 left to talk about. One is the worst film I saw at the festival that had so many walkouts, and the other 2 are some of my favorite films I saw at the festival. So I'm gonna go good egg, bad egg, good egg. And we're gonna start with If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which I'm sure this is a film you have heard of. This is an A24 film starring Rose Byrne, and it is a fantastic anxiety-filled ride. This film is on this list because it's more disturbing, but I would say more in the anxiety kind of angle. And you guys know I love that. I love anything that challenges your psyche and psychology of the viewer, and this film does it superbly. In fact, I heard people talking about how they had a panic attack seeing this movie, and it was before I got a chance to see it. So when I finally did, I didn't have one, but I felt it in my chest. I felt it coming, and it was all because of Rose Byrne's performance. This film is insane. It's so beautiful, and the way it's shot and the cinematography for it is what makes it shine, because the film is shot so close to Rose Byrne's face the entire time. The movie is about a woman who is dealing, she's on the brink, she's on the edge, and she's dealing with her daughter's illness, as well as being a caretaker for her while her husband is away, and then something really awful happens in her house, and just everything is falling down. And I look at this film as Chicken Little. I think that there's some sprinkled in aspects of that throughout it that really work with the encompassing idea, but it really is quite, I wouldn't say ambiguous, but it's quite open to interpretation, and there are some surrealist themes. The movie also has Conan O'Brien, Danielle McDonald, and A$AP Rocky. A$AP Rocky is so good in this film. So good. But it's about a woman who is just trying to keep everything together, but her mental health is just crumbling. And then it's shot like this almost the entire time. You never really see the daughter's face. You hear her, but you're just seeing Rose burn the entire time like this. And I believe it was shot like that. The lens was in her face that close the entire time. And it's just a marvel to see. Just knowing that alone, I'm sure you'll understand the anxiety and the down spiral of the film. This is a movie where you're watching someone make poor decision after poor decision, but you totally understand it, and they have represented it in a way where you couldn't even possibly imagine how you would be able to get through these situations. It's a film about motherhood and a film about keeping yourself together, your mental health and everyone else's mental health around you, almost gaslighting you into making you feel like you aren't reacting the way you're supposed to, but how else can you? It felt to me like the Donnie Darko scene with the fear and love being preached at you. That's what the film feels like to me. It's about the balance of mental health on the brink of the edge. It was giving Mother, Mother, the scene where they're jumping on the sink. It was giving that. Absolutely adored this film. One of my favorites I saw. Definitely more of a drama thriller, but worth a watch. And it's going to be out in cinemas very soon. So make sure if you're up to the challenge that you keep an eye out. Okay, the worst film at the festival by far, I have a lot of people who agree with me, is Crushed. This movie broke me. Broke my friend Vicky. You guys know Nightmare Maven? She was sitting on this side and my friend Amira was sitting on this side, and we were all white knuckling it to the finish line. I luckily had 2 glasses of wine, but honestly, I've never felt so sober in my entire life. This movie is an atrocity, and you guys know me. I've spoken about some really disturbing stuff and how I like these films so far, but this film was so poorly constructed. And I'm gonna give a somewhat spoiler for this film, so please skip ahead to the time code down below if you need to, but I think it's quite important to go in knowing this. It isn't the core reveal or the core even subject of the film, but the way it's presented and used as a plot device is really evil. And you guys know me, I don't have a problem with films that push the edge, go over the boundaries. I think that there is nothing more incredible than films that tackle hard subjects front on. But the thing is that this film doesn't do it. It just uses several things as plot devices and never really gets to the core of what it's trying to say. So the film is about a little girl whose cat goes missing. And at the same time, a video is circulating online showing people doing certain things to cats. Maybe the title might explain that. You never see any video, but they do a very smart psychological trick in playing the same music while everyone keeps watching the video throughout the film, and it's really disturbing. But you do not see anything. I want to say that. You do not see anything. But then the film pivots because the little girl goes looking for her cat and she ends up in the wrong place, and the film becomes about, well, it's meant to be about raising awareness for human trafficking. And let me say, that is light spoilers. Those are just the themes. I haven't really even touched on what happens throughout this story. But what I want to say is this film only goes for 1 hour and 40 minutes, but it feels like it goes for 3 hours because it races past these really intense elements, and then it settles on certain perpetrators and certain people that you don't even want to hear their voice or hear them speak or hear their explanation. And it kind of gives them an out. I wouldn't say an out, but it really gives airtime to the wrong people and the wrong perspectives throughout the film. It felt like it had some certain plot devices and then just went into completely stereotypical caricatures of what we know as these subjects and around these themes, and didn't really touch on anything important that is meant to bring awareness. I wouldn't say it's glamorizing, but it was definitely dumbing down the idea of how these things happen and showing it in a very two-dimensional way. And with a big lead up with that, if you're gonna show those elements and make them on screen, make audiences sit through them, you better have a good reason. And I just felt the whole thing was very sloppy. I was not the only one. Multiple people walked out during this. The lady on our aisle, she finished up her check for her meal and got out of there as fast as possible. And I saw this happen to multiple people. And then I heard, as the film played throughout the festival several times, people were doing the same and people were really appalled by this movie. I had heard that this film was appalling. I had heard that this film was disturbing, and that's why I wanted to see it. So I was very surprised to see a subject like this. Again, something that definitely has a place if it needs to be spoken about, and there needs to be focus and information spread about, these atrocities online in an educational format or a thought-provoking format, and I just felt like it missed the mark completely. I would avoid this film at all costs. It is not worth it. Everything you've heard from me is anything you're gonna get out of it. I promise you that. But hey, go check it out for yourself, make up your own mind. But let's finish with a bang, because one of my favorite films of the whole festival was The Plague. Oh my God, I love this movie. The Plague is known as a psychological drama thriller, and it's about a group of boys at this water polo camp, like a summer camp, where they're all kind of trapped together, and the dynamics that go on between them that change as some of the kids get bullied. It starts off with this main kid who is kind of trying to find his way. And oh my God, the performance of this lead actor, Everett Blunk, I believe is how I pronounce his name, the chemistry he has, or just the way he can interact with the other kids and make it seem so natural, and like you're in the mind of a young boy and understand the turmoil and the dynamics. Just his micro expressions are fantastic. This film doesn't show his inner dialogue, but somehow it presents it so honestly and in such a vulnerable way on screen. The chemistry these kids had, again, is just so believable. I find it so astonishing when I see a group of kids who can act and they can all act together. It seems like the camera isn't even in the room with them. And this is a very tough movie to pull off, because throughout this bullying, it is shown to us that they believe one of the kids has a plague. And that becomes the constant drive to bully one of the children. The film goes on from there and becomes about the dynamics between them and how things shift. And it's a really interesting, really harrowing story. It's disturbing in the way that it breaks your heart, but it's so beautiful. The film also has Joel Edgerton as one of the teachers. He just pops up out of nowhere, but the kids really steal the ride. I mean, it's all about them, but the direction is just fantastic in this movie. Really one to watch out for. I know we've spoken about a lot of younger kids in disturbing movies. The Innocents is a good one. Playground is one that we've spoken about recently. I feel like this is a whole subgenre that I'm really interested in, and the way that they show the cracks of innocence. It's just such a beautiful story. And I think you can add that. If I had a disturbing list on those films, you could definitely add this one into that. It is one to look out for, and one that I wanted to end this video on because it was just so beautiful. I think I cried, but very uncomfortable in some elements, but more disturbing because it's just the sadness and the awful, inhumane way kids treat each other and we treat each other, shown in a very pure way. Definitely one to keep your eye out for. I loved The Plague, one of my favorite films of the year. If you made it this far, thank you so much, and let me know what your favorite disturbing movie, any disturbing movie that you've seen this year. I would love to check it out. You guys know I'm always looking for new disturbing films for my disturbing challenges that I like to go in blind for. So definitely leave some down below, because I'll be doing another video on that very soon now that I'm back home. But thank you so much for sticking around. Don't forget, if you like disturbing movies and if you like to talk about the really uncomfortable stuff, I'm here. I love talking about horrors, thrillers, and anything dark and disturbing. Subscribe. I'm here twice a week usually, and I'll see you all very soon for a new one. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.